Garoppolo. Thrown down. Brian Burns gets there. Spider-Man.
What a pass rush by Burns. See how quickly he got to the edge and got
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter.
And welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, brought to you by the Bleav Podcast Networks.
Do you believe?
I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. With me this morning, Schuyler, Callihan, beat writer for the Carolina Panthers for Sports Illustrated, and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. Fresh off of a 20-17 Week 2 loss to the New Orleans Saints in the home opener Monday Night Football. Kind of a weird game. We'll try to dissect it for you. We like to believe that we are the voice of reason when it comes to the Panther podcasts that are out there and Panther content creators. I didn't even bother getting on Twitter really at all last night or this morning because I knew what it was going to be. So we're going to stay away from that. We're going to give you the real. We're going to tell you the truth, how we feel about what we saw. But the whole pity party, giving up after Week 2 thing, that's not what we do here. So that's not, if you're here for that, then you can go on about your day. But if you're here to kind of figure out what we need to do next, maybe we can help you out. We'll be able to figure out what went wrong yesterday against the Saints. The Saints defense might be the best defense in the league. I'll just start off right there. So a lot of this was, you're playing against a defense that's like playing in molasses. So we'll get into that also. It's also Tuesday. So of course, I'm sure by now a lot of you have a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
If you are mad at the Panthers or the coaching staff, the Bryce Young or David Tepper, whoever, here's your chance to vent. You can actually get on youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio or the Facebook Watch version of this live video, and you can get on and comment directly to us. We'll be able to respond to it. So if there's something you want us to question or to answer, I should say, or just something, an observation you've had, you can do so as well there throughout the show. Before we get started, though, quick word from our sponsors over at Bet Online. Football is back, and Bet Online is your #1 information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with Bet Online's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From Week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. That felt longer than normal. BetOnline, where the game starts, and where we start is a look at the box score and first observations. Normally we take a day or two between the end of our game and when we come on so we can kind of collect our thoughts. Of course, we knew this week was going to be a little bit different with it being Monday Night Football. Really only having about 10 hours to process what happened last night. The Panthers 20-17 losers to the New Orleans Saints. Let's just start off with you, Stu. Initial thoughts, takeaways from last night's contest. From what you saw at Bank of America Stadium?
Well, I'll give him the positive first. I think, our defense is capable, just like last year, of keeping us in games. I feel like, Frankie Louvu stepped up big time with Shaq Thompson going down. We're continuing to see guys, not just guys, but our starters are, and the leaders of this team, falling to injury. Unfortunate situation where he got landed on by, what it seemed to be, a guy just finishing a play, So just bad luck, man. I hate it for Shaq, and, just hopefully, he recovers and, makes his way back to the field. But the defense, man, Frankie Louvu we see him week in, week out doing his thing. And, and I feel like, when you have a leader like Shaq go down and you have somebody like Frankie on that squad, and is capable of leading by playing with his energy, I love seeing that. Von Bell, I love seeing his play yesterday. Coming up, making plays, with his interception, and just, I just think our defense is capable of keeping us in games. But now on the offensive side, I mean, it's just, we're watching a offense trying to find themselves. And that's to be expected. We can go into a season as fans and say to ourselves, oh, week 1, we're just going to hit on all cylinders. Yeah, that's wishful thinking. But I think, now that we're 2 weeks in, reality sets in, right? We aren't as far ahead. We're not as far as what we thought we were, right? Doesn't mean that we're not going to get there. It just means that we're just not there yet offensively. And I think yesterday I was pretty happy about, the way they, were able to rally towards the end of the game there, putting some points on the board, catching some rhythm. But one of the things going back to last week where we were able to run the ball, kind of at will, we didn't really do that this game. And so I'll say, when things aren't going well, you have to commit to the run and give the offensive line confidence, give the quarterback confidence. Like, Chuba Hubbard only got 2 carries.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like this was a game where, first quarter we were, down by 21, So you got to figure out a way to be physical in a game like this as a division opponent. Yeah, the Saints defense appears to be probably one of the best defenses in the league at this point, but I think we, could have ran the ball more and could have been a little bit more physical at the point of contact.
It looks like, okay, I'm looking through the box score. We rushed for 100 yards even. We only had 19 attempts.
Yeah, but part of that is Bryce. You got to remember, Bryce Young was scrambling.
Right, he had that long run on that last drive. So
take those away. I mean, the mentality and the play calling.
It's 26
I feel
yards.
Like you weren't really helping yourself there.
Yeah, that was 26 yards just on that run by Bryce. So
but I also think, there again, it goes back to the offense finding themselves. Like, Frank Reich is still trying to figure out what his players can do, especially in a game moment. Like, short yardage, you can tell they're trying to figure out what they want to be in short yardage situations. I mean, if it was me, just line Chuba Hubbard up and just let him be a bully. And we don't have to be too cute about things. And but I think, if they're finding themselves, we don't have to jump the gun. We got the Seahawks next week, and we can make our presence known there.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier. Going on to take on Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks on the road, cross country in Seattle next week. Schuyler, you were there last night at Bank of America Stadium. What were your initial takeaways from that game, 2017 loss to the Saints week 2?
I mean, a lot of what Stu just said, I mean, he hit it right on the head. I mean, the offense has just got to find a way to get the run game going early. And I would understand it if, again, like Stu said, if you're down early and you're kind of forced to throw it. But, I mean, this was a 6-6 game for a while. I mean, it was 6-3 for a long time. So, and even when you're down 13-6, you still have to run the football. Like, you can't get away from that. But I think the biggest difference that I've started to kind of notice with this year's team through 2 games versus last year, like, when you look on paper, this team is more talented than last year's. And I don't really think it's close. Now, the depth, that's still obviously the biggest concern with this team. But the main reason why that team was so good down the stretch last year and the reason why they got the 7 wins is because they ran the football at will and they played good defense. Well, right now you're doing one of those two things. And running the football at will is something that you have to have with a really good offensive line that can get downhill. And you also have to have a guy that can kind of wear down a defense. And I don't really see that running back existing in this room. Like, you don't have D'Onta Foreman. You don't even have Mike Davis back there. Like, you have two kind of elusive scat backs that can, one cut and make you miss kind of guys. They're not really north and south downhill type of runners. They can be, but they're not going to, bring a load like D'Onta Foreman does. And I think that's the one thing that's missing with this team. You look up front, you're missing two. You're starting offensive linemen, both on the interior. That's a problem. I mean, you look at that offensive line across the board, you've got Chandler Zavala, who started at right guard last week, got flipped over to left guard. You have Cade Mays, who's bounced all over the place since he's been to Carolina. Now he's starting at right guard. You have Ike Ekwonu, who's kind of going through a sophomore slump right now. That's a young group outside of Bozeman and Taylor Moton. So, I mean, they've got to find a way to get the running game going, but I don't know. It seems like, guys, like, to me, all the concerns that we had going into the season are coming to fruition. Like, there's legitimate reason to be concerned about the receiving group because they haven't been able to make plays consistently. They haven't been able to stretch the field. There's no verticality to this offense. Mm-hmm. That's an issue. Like, last week, Bryce Young, I think his average yards per completion was 3.8. This week was 4.6. That's not going to win you football games.
Okay, so my initial thought, actually, that last drive kind of skewed the game for me a little bit because I knew people were going to wake up and go, "Oh, 20-17."
They're playing safe, soft coverage anyways.
Yeah, soft coverage. Saints. Yeah, you can dump it off to the running back, and he'll just be able to get 5-10 yards.
Now he had a couple. He had that throw to Mingo like right around the 2 or 3 yard line or something like that. That looked okay, but in the end, my first thought when the game was over was that, oh, they let Bryce cook a little bit. They took off the limiter, I guess, and because it felt like instead of him having to go up to the line with a set play and then doing set play, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That last drive felt like, okay, they're giving him enough time to get to the line and see the defense, and then he's able to adjust to it. And there was a couple times during those plays where he was able to kind of not freestyle, but he was able to adapt on the fly, like with the little cut back to Thielen in the end zone for the 2-point conversion, that kind of thing. That's the stuff that we're not seeing. Like, we're not seeing that from Bryce Young. I don't know if that's because of I don't think it's the play calling, because I to a degree I understand why they're calling the plays they're calling, because again, like you both said, we don't really have that vertical threat. Even with DJ Chark out there last night, it's just not there. So like, it's pointless. I hear the fans going, well, you need to throw downfield. You can't just throw it downfield just to throw it downfield. Like, there's got to be a guy open. There's got to be a reason to throw it down there, and you can't just
separation.
Yeah.
Nobody has some separation.
So like, I don't know, that last drive kind of threw me off a little bit. I knew it was going to look a little better at the end of the day, losing by 3, and then a little excitement there at the end. But that entire game, it did not feel like the Panthers' offense was in control at all. And really, looking back the past 2 weeks, I'm trying to think, was there really a drive where you felt like they had a rhythm, like, to what they're doing? What's the identity? I don't know what they're supposed to be.
Not this week. I mean, last week, I think that's the biggest difference between week 1 and week 2 is even though week 1 was bad offensively, there were some moments that you saw like, okay, this thing can maybe work. And I think a lot of that was going back to what they did on first down. They did a really good job on first down, I thought, last week, from what I could remember. Now, I've covered so many dang teams, I might be getting mixed up. But
no, they didn't this past. They didn't last night, but they did week before. Yeah,
and that was the difference last night. They were getting themselves in 2nd and 12, 2nd and 14, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. Like, you're not going to win if you stay behind the chains or at the chains. Like, you have to get positive yardage on first down, and a lot of that is running the football. But it's also hard to push the ball downfield when you have a barrage of defenders in your grill. Like, it's hard to get the ball downfield when you've got guys up in your face. You don't have a clean pocket. And I think some of these concepts, like, I'll have to go back and watch the tape because I don't want to overly criticize, but I feel like some of these plays are taking really long to develop. And I don't know if that's the route concepts, if that's just Bryce holding onto the ball. I'm not really sure. Maybe a little bit of everything. But I don't like how long it's taking. And there was a few plays last night. There was one in particular where he had Adam Thielen going like basically on an out route toward the sideline, had him wide open. He was focused clearly on the other side of the field. And there was like 3 or 4 plays where he had a guy open on the other side and never even made it over there. So I don't know if he's not going all the way through, left to right, right to left, or if he's just – or if that's just not even an option really, or if that's like his 4-3 or 5th read. Like I don't know what that is, but he's got to get to that read because there was multiple plays like that. And there was one where I think it was Bryce was like getting chased around in the backfield and he was kind of going back and forth, almost got sacked, and he had Terrace coming back to the ball along the sideline. Would have been good for like 6-7 yards and didn't throw it to him. And you think he ended up running for like a yard or maybe go back to the line of scrimmage. Like those little plays don't seem like big plays until you go back and watch and you're like, man, that 6 or 7 yards could have really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like I do want to address one thing, though, because I am seeing this amongst the fan base. I'm not here to yell at the fan base this week. I usually do because you guys, you are prone to disappoint me on social media. You're making the whole family look bad out here. Like I'm not gonna rag on you guys because I get it. You want winners. You want a winning team. I get all of that. I don't remember Frank Wright ever saying that he was holding back his explosive plays. I keep seeing this narrative that this isn't an explosive offense that I was promised, Frank Wright. I'm like, when did he promise us an explosive offense? He just said he wasn't running their plays. That doesn't mean the plays that he wasn't running were explosive. It just means they weren't running the stuff he wanted to run. If this is the stuff they want to run, and he doubled down on that in the post game, where someone asked about the play calling. And he was like, we don't believe it's the play calling. We just believe we just need to execute the plays we're calling, which to an extent I can see.
That's true.
Yeah.
I can see that.
You know,
I would like when it comes to the play calling, I'm not like, I think at the end of the day, the play calling works, right? Whatever plays you call, clearly you have an understanding of what you're doing. Like,
there's a goal.
Like you get paid for that.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think people should even like question Frank Wright's play calling, right?
No.
But all we're really saying is when you're struggling as an offense, you have some dogs that you got to trust to move the chains. Like if your quarterback is in a funk, let him lean on the offensive line and the running back in the running game, just to get things moving here. Like don't just disengage from the run like that in a game like this. When you have a division game where you're sitting there 3-3, 6-3, like 14-9, like those types of games. You see what's happening up north, Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, those cold weather games where it's just like, man, these guys are just out there like going fist for fist. Turn that game on, right? Turn that type of game plan on, because what that's going to do, is wear down a defense and keep your defense like nice and fluid. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just really like the physicality. I mean, for me as a running back, you live for games like that where, okay, our quarterback's struggling. Give me the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I want to help.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
It feels like they don't do that.
Let's just hit somebody in the mouth. Like, if we go 3 and out, at least we hit him in the mouth.
Do you
because the next time we go out there, they're gonna remember when I hit them in the mouth.
do you think it's as simple as that though? Because it does feel like it's weird, because like you watch the Panthers play, and then it'll be like Dallas or Kansas City or something that's on right behind it, or Miami, and you're just watching 2 different worlds of offense. Like,
man, listen, you can't compare nobody to Miami right now.
Yeah. Oh gosh, they're on something else.
When you talk about speed, this is what you're talking about. You talking about, man, you talking about a Hyundai and a Porsche. As far as speed, bro, like their speed is just crazy at all skill positions: receiver, tight end, and daggone running back position.
Yeah, the running back's fast.
I got running 4.3.
I got 2 things on the whole play calling thing. So first of all, I don't understand the overreaction, but I also get it. Like everyone's like they're frustrated, and I get that. But every time something doesn't work, they just want to move on to the next guy, right? It's the same thing with the quarterback. The backup quarterback is the most popular man on every football team, right? And it could be the same thing with the play calling. Like to me, the play calling is not the issue. If you're not executing, it doesn't matter if Frank Reich is calling the plays or if Thomas Brown's calling the plays. It doesn't matter if you're not executing. Secondly, you're 2 games into this thing. You brought Frank Reich here for a reason. He is this mastermind of offenses. He may not be, the Sean McVays or Kyle Shanahan's of the world, but he's a very well-respected offensive mind that's had success with quarterback play. There's
he knows what he's doing.
He's not alone. He's got Jim Caldwell in there. He's got Thomas. I mean, there's other guys, Josh McCown. There's a group of guys.
Here's my point: is like, yes, you're frustrated, but you want to take away the play calling from a guy that's done it for years and hand it to a guy after 2 games. After 2 games, guys.
Yeah.
That have
I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
I was waiting for somebody to get to it.
I'm getting hot now.
Yeah, I was waiting.
But you want to hand it over to a guy that's never called a single NFL play in a regular season game in his life. That's no disrespect to Thomas Brown. That's just the cold, hard facts. He's never called a play in a regular season.
I think the fan base doesn't know that. I think the fan base isn't aware of that they don't know that Thomas Brown wasn't calling plays. When
the offense is in disarray like it is, you don't want to change it and give it to a guy that's never called plays before. You got to go to the guy that's done it and figured out how to get out of this before. He's been through this before. You mean to tell me the Colts have never had a struggling offense starting season? He was 1-5 and made the playoffs. Yeah. I'm not saying that's going to happen with this team, but he found a way. He's done this for years. Thomas Brown is learning. This is not the time to turn it over to Thomas Brown just because we're 2 weeks in and they can't move the ball. It's a new offense. It's a whole new scheme. A lot of young players, a lot of new faces. You have 2 of your offensive linemen out. This is going to take some time. It was never going to come out and just hit on all cylinders right out of the bat.
And I think people got Panther fans in general kind of expected that. And I'm sitting back because we got a little bit of the taste of that too, where it was like we were kind of expecting it to be a little better, like Stu said at the top of the show. And now after week 2, again, like what Stu said, I think reality's starting to set in a little bit in terms of what we have. Willie asking why weren't offensive adjustments made? How do you know they didn't make adjustments? That just didn't work. That's always been my thing too with the fan base. Like they assume the coaching staff hasn't tried to change something. A lot of times they have, and it didn't work either. The Saints defense is really, really good. Like I will apologize to the Saints because I was down on them all offseason. I was saying they're the oldest team in the division and I don't trust them, blah, blah, blah. I got caught up in the whole, well, I don't like that team, so I'm just going to try to make sure I don't predict them to do well. And like
the Saints really played a really good game on defense.
They did. Well, yeah, on defense, yeah.
But still, man, I just wish we would have ran the ball. We gotta make sure we take advantage of the opportunities we get to make the play calling more comfortable to call the plays.
Ooh,
execution.
I just thought of something too that
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Deonta Foreman was a healthy scratch for the Bears this past week. Didn't even get on the field.
Man.
Yeah, I'm just like, and that made me think. And I was talking to you guys about this before the show too. I was like, why did we trade Christian McCaffrey? Like, why did we trade him? I'm trying to remember what the circumstances were. I know we had just lost. Well, Rule had just been fired. He was traded after Rule was let go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
he played 1 game with Wilkes, I believe.
Why did we trade him? I'm trying to think of why. Because the offense that we have constructed right now, imagine that offense with the Christian McCaffrey in it. I would think it would just kind of elevate a little bit of everything you can do, and he'd probably be the best route runner on the team. To be honest, like I don't know. I mean, like what would have? It would be a little bit easier for Bryce because he knows he has that security blanket. And I'm like, what did we get for McCaffrey? I know some of the stuff ended up going to the Bears to move up to draft Bryce Young. And I think one of the picks was the 4th round pick we used on DJ Johnson. And I think we have a 5th next year that we still have. Or no, I think they said they traded all of them off to various things or whatever. So in the end, what did we get for McCaffrey? And would it have been better just to keep him? Because we could have still moved up to number 1 anyway. I mean, we still could have won those 7 games with McCaffrey here. I don't know. It's just one of those Marvel what if type things. Like, what was the reasoning behind it?
Financial relief is number one in my opinion. I think that's what it was. Because
but see,
we
then
do have
the Burns thing in
a
there,
large
it's like,
cap next year.
you throw the Burns situation in there, you're just like, okay, well, if we did these moves to bring in our guys like Burns or whatever, why could they not figure out how to sign Brian Burns before the season started? If that was your plan, if your plan was to save this money for them,
the Burns deal will get done. Like I don't have any concern with that. I think that's just a matter of coming to an exact number, and that'll happen in the offseason. But like to me, I think it's all about financial relief. And when you have a chance to strike while the iron's hot, you have to do it, especially with the running back position. And I hate that the value is what it is with the running backs, but it is what it is, right? So when you look at Christian's injury history, you're like, oh, man, like we're stuck with this big contract. That was all the talk going into last season was like, man, the Panthers are contract.
You're right. And of course, as soon as he leaves here, he's like the healthiest he's been in like 5 years or whatever.
And that's the point. Is like, okay, so as soon as he shows that he's healthy, and if the team's not playing well, you trade him. You get the most out of him while you can, so you get something back in return. You're not stuck with that big contract, and now you are able to pay Brian Burns at some point. You are able to pay Frankie Louvu and whoever else is going to be up for contract negotiations. So, like, I think that's the biggest reason. I think, again, as good as Christian McCaffrey is, he's still, by the league terms, a running back. And you don't want to pay those guys an absurd amount of money if no one else is.
Not like Pat Mahomes, who Lord, cashed in. That we'll get to that in a second. Donald Duck says, I said it last night. C-Mac and DJ Moore laughing at us right now. Y'all think you're better without me hitting different right now. I don't think DJ Moore's laughing at anybody. Have you seen what's going on in Chicago?
DJ Moore is in the exact same situation that he was in last year with Carolina. He's in a different city. That's all.
You could tell because remember, like him talking like in the pressers before the season started, he wasn't really throwing jabs at Carolina, but it would be like these little shadowy, the Chicago press is great and blah, 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 and it's much bigger here. And he was not really shading Carolina, but you could tell he wasn't happy he got traded. And now it's like he's in a worse situation. Like he's in a much worse. He would be getting targeted at least 10 times a game here still. Like
Justin Fields.
Yeah, I don't know what there's, and I say all this for the Panther fans that are watching, so there are worse situations going on in the NFL right now than what's going on in Carolina. Like this is growth, this is building up to something. I don't know what Chicago's doing. Like I don't know. I don't know what
we said in the preseason too. This is not a retool. This is a legit rebuild.
Right.
You have so many guys on this team that were not here last year, a whole new staff. Like, you're not bringing back 70% of your roster that won 7 games a year ago. That's
I saw. They had the stat last night before the game started that the Panthers returned like 34% of their scrimmage yards from last year or something. It's the lowest in the NFL. Like, so
that's not retooling.
No, so there's a lot of stuff they're trying to figure out, and it feels like we're watching them figure it out on the fly. But there's really no other way to do it. Like you got to just roll it out there and see what you got. It was a weak wide receiver free agent base. And I know people are going to say DeAndre Hopkins and stuff. DeAndre Hopkins would have made a difference on this team. Like, I just don't see him making that huge of a difference with what we've seen so far. Mike Aldridge says, y'all mad about the game? I'm mad my internet won't allow me to watch the game or even a podcast about the game. That sounds like sounds like a problem that we can't help you with, Mike. I'm sorry. I hope that works out for you. Donald, again, another Ohio State quarterback not panning out. Are we surprised? Guys, it's been 2 games. Like this, you know what? I wasn't even going to go into it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why we mad, son. I'm going to tell you why we mad, son.
Why are we so quick to jump on this whole, like, bust, get rid of this guy, that guy thing so quickly? It's September 19th. We've played 2 games. Like,
and it's not just talking about Fields, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree.
Just even Fields, like, I mean, he's played all of what, like 14 games or whatever as a starter or something weird like that. This whole microwave popcorn mentality of instant gratification. Like the Panther fans, I don't know, we picked the Panthers to be 2-0 at this point, but we weren't being logical, and we've lost some key components on our defense at this point. So our mentality has changed. But some of the fan base, they're just expecting like perfection. And I don't know of any team that can do that. Like, just give it to you constantly, just perfection, like what you want. And it's like drilled in our heads that we should expect this. And I don't know where it's coming from. Like, I have no idea where this Panther fan base is expecting this from. We just had to scrub out 3 years of the previous regime. So
let me give you guys a stat right quick. Peyton Manning. You want to know how many interceptions he threw his rookie season in 1998?
They used to know it's like 28 or something like that.
27.
Yes, exactly. 28 interceptions.
Yeah.
28 interceptions.
That's a lot. That's a whole lot.
I'm pretty sure people were like, man, who in the hell drafted this man?
We should have drafted Ryan Leaf. Why did we draft Peyton Manning?
Why did we draft Peyton Manning? Well, lo and behold, one of the greatest of all time. So, listen, don't be that guy or gal that beats Bryce Young up or this coaching staff up too early, because we will remember you.
Yes, we do keep receipts here, I Bleav in Panthers. We do keep those receipts. Do you believe? I still feel like I'm still not seeing anything that's making me alarmed with Bryce Young. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not seeing it. Like, Anthony Richardson has not finished the first 2 games that he's played this season. That's alarming to me. With Bryce, I don't know if it's – do you think it's the coaching staff and the plays are calling that's telling Bryce to not look downfield? Or do you think it's Bryce not looking downfield, but the option is there? Because that's 2 different things.
Guys aren't getting downfield quick enough and getting open fast enough. And then you also have the pressure thing, like I said earlier. So, like, when you have those 2 things combined, you have no chance to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah.
But it's not that they're not trying. I mean, in Atlanta, they had 5 or 6 calls that were trying to get the ball downfield. Now, only 1 or 2 of them actually went downfield. But, I mean, I think it's just a barrage of things. Like, I don't think it's any one thing that you can really point to. But, I mean, again, this is going to happen when you have a whole new staff. Like, you're going to have some growing pains. And, I mean, Stu, you probably know this. I mean, going through it yourself, like, you can speak to going through a coaching change and how much of a culture change that is. Like, as much as we talked about and praised Steve Wilkes last year for the job that he did in really turning that locker room on a dime, they're still having to do that again. And trying to get this whole team bought in. That's a hard thing to do.
Right.
Some of those dudes aren't here, like they're elsewhere. So, like, you're taking a little bit of the culture you were starting to build there. Someone made a point in the comments earlier. I can't find it right now, but basically, they're basically having to rebuild the culture again for the 3rd time in 4 years, 5 years, or whatever. I think they're on the right path, including former Panthers like Stu, Kuechly out there yesterday. We've seen Steve Smith and Thomas Davis and these guys running around. Like, you're trying to instill like some sort of culture that was here previously that Ron Rivera and John Fox and them understood, and the previous regime tried to kind of wipe out. So you're kind of working behind the 8 ball to begin with. And then you said it all off season, Schuyler. The number one problem for this team is depth. And we saw it again last night. Do you have an update on Shaq Thompson and his injury? Because I'm seeing it's significant and he might be out the rest of the year.
I don't know if it'll be the rest of the year or not. We'll probably get something here. We talked to Frank at, I think, 1 o'clock. So, but he did say last night, like, he expects it to be something that allows or forces him to miss extended period of time. So, to me, again, I'm just assuming here, but from what I take out of that, that's IR. Like, that's at least 4 games, if not longer. And it didn't look good. So, like, I mean, when you get carted off the field, you rarely see a guy that gets carted off the field back in a week or 2. So
yeah, we've seen a bunch of injuries the first 2 weeks.
Last night. Oh my god!
I have not seen it. Like, I've only saw what they're showing on ESPN. Somehow
don't watch it
Twitter yet. Like, I don't want to see it. I've heard enough.
I'm just glad I don't play football no more, man. Like, for real, like watching that injury, like, and then thinking to myself, man, I got to go out there and run the ball. Like,
right? Yeah.
Like, that could have been me, or you know what I'm saying? Like the mental aspect of this game is all jacked up in a lot of ways. Like, just the instabilities that are there that are not addressed for guys. Like, hopefully, today or tomorrow, guys are, talking about, how can we not let that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can we come in and make a play and not like take somebody's knees out like that? You know what I'm saying? And I know it was a bang bang play, but sheesh,
God,
man.
I know I'm gonna run across it before the day is over with because I'm surprised I haven't seen it already. But
yeah.
And I don't want to blame.
Prayers to Nick Chubb, man. I hope his mentals is,
it's the same leg.
Some solid
college,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. So
same leg.
I thought so. He tore the ACL, the MCL, the PCL,
all of it.
Yeah. So hopefully,
I don't want to totally blame anybody for it because like when stuff happens on the football field, like you can't control things. But like Deshaun Williams, like I don't know what even if Shaq doesn't get hurt on that play, I'm not sure of what he's trying to accomplish there. Because if you miss the play, he gets tied up with Trevor Penning and just like suplexes him to the ground. Like I don't know what he was doing to just like to me, if you're an offensive lineman, you're doing that. That's good. You're finishing your block. Yeah. To me, the only thing that comes out of that, if you're a defensive player, is disaster. And that's exactly what happened. So again, I'm not putting blame on Deshaun Williams because that is the last thing that guy needs because he probably already feels terrible about that. But again, you got to be smart in these types of plays. But it's hard. It's hard. It is.
Yeah.
Courtesy says only con I have with Bryce has to be more accurate with the deep ball. He's overthrown quite a few balls downfield. I was thinking about this last night too, because that last drive, it made me kind of remember, well, Bryce can actually throw the football. Like that's why he got picked number 1 overall. Like it made me remember what he was doing at Alabama. Then it made me remember who he was throwing to at Alabama. Because wasn't he throwing to Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, wasn't Ruggs on that team? Like he had like a group of he had like 4 wide receivers that went like in the first round or something, didn't he? Devonta Smith won the Heisman.
I can't remember who all he had, but I mean, Bama's been loaded with receivers for a long time.
Yeah, so that's a little different. Throwing to Devonta Smith and you know what I mean? Like it's a little different throwing to them than it is to throw what we currently have at wide receiver.
It was funny though, because my buddy, he's a Saints fan, and he was talking to me last night. He's like, man, if y'all were to get the number 1 overall pick, which obviously they can't because it's now Chicago's, like, and Bryce is playing awful. He's like, I would take Caleb Williams. I was like, I don't know. Like, if they even had their number 1 overall pick, I would say they'd probably just do what Chicago did and trade it away because you have Bryce. You want to get more help around him. You still believe him.
Are we there? Is that where we are?
No.
I'm not going to get rid of that.
Let's stay on topic.
But what I will say about this, though,
do you believe
it does suck for Carolina that if they do have a bad year, they don't have that first-round pick to where they're not going to get that top-tier rookie that's going to help this team win right away. They're going to have to go the veteran route.
Like a Marvin Harrison Jr., like somebody like that, because that's what they need. They need a receiver for Bryce. Like they need a dude that's a terror. They need a Justin Jefferson.
It's going to have to be free agents.
Is there going to be somebody out there like that? Like, because if they go the free agent route, okay, you're talking about spending $20 million a year for somebody like that, right? Like, who would that be? I don't even know. Well, T. Higgins. We were talking about T. Higgins, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That could be.
What about Brandon Ayuk?
The kid from the 49ers?
49ers.
Maybe. I mean, they need a bunch. So I'm not going to say no to anything.
Mike Evans. Mike Evans.
I'd take Mike Evans today, like right now, if it was available. I don't think they would trade within the division, but if he's a free agent, then
yeah, he'll be a free agent next year, right? He'll be a free agent next year.
That's what they're saying in the chat. So we'll see. Now he's a little long in the tooth now because he's played. How many seasons has Mike Evans played? Like 10, 8, 9? He's played a few. And that's the thing. Like with Adam Thielen, we're getting him at the end of his career. So like he's going to give you what he can give you, but he can't give you what he was giving the Vikings 5 years ago. Like, and Bryce needs somebody like that. Like it feels like he doesn't have that one guy he can depend on. Like he hasn't built that kind of chemistry with somebody that's consistent every week. And because of that, he's like not trusting what he's seeing in terms of receivers. And I think he underestimates the speed of the NFL because there was a couple of those times where he got ran down from behind by Saints defenders where you would have thought he would have thrown it away and he didn't, like for some reason. The one down towards the goal line where late, where if he had thrown it away, it'd been 4th and 3 or whatever. And who knows, Frank Wright might have decided to go for it there, and they ended up kicking the field goal instead. Those little things can affect the game. Like just that sequence, if that had been different, maybe the rest of the game is different. Who knows? But it feels like he needs that. I don't know who that would be. I don't think that person's on this roster. Is that safe to say? I don't know if that guy's here, if he's going to develop into that over the course of the season. And a lot of people in the chats are saying we need to definitely build this run game.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we'll see it come to fruition with Hurst, right? I like the tight end position. Like, I love the tight end position because I've seen it really like make an offense pretty good, which was the Carolina Panthers the year we went to the Super Bowl.
Anytime the Panthers been good, we've had.
I would say we had an offense that, like Cotchery, he would catch the hard balls, the ones that were in traffic, like no matter what it seemed like. Greg Olsen, whenever there was like a scramble out of the pocket, that was Cam's guy. But then we had a deep threat with Ted Ginn. Like, he's faster than everyone on the field.
Yeah.
So you have to respect that. You know what I'm saying? So we have those elements. We just have to, like I said, like in the beginning, there's 2 games into this. They're still trying to find themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I think that comes with chemistry, right? So Cam had chemistry with those guys that I just listed off. And you look at guys around the league, they have chemistry with the guys they feel comfortable with. It just didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like I feel like Panther fans shouldn't be discouraged about any of this. And the reason why I said I felt pretty good about the end of the game last night. Yeah, it was chopped liver, leftovers or whatever. But that was a moment for them to gain chemistry. That was a moment for him to, okay, I remember that pass I threw to Thielen in red zone, and he walked in for a touchdown or hit the pylon. Like, that to me is a positive gain for their experience moving forward for the season.
I like Tony Gibson says, construction site is a mess right now, but we are building. That's a pretty good observation of what it is. You know, when the house is first getting built, there's drywall and stuff all over the yard, and you see the frame getting built. You're trying to picture what it's going to look like. It's going to be all right, guys.
Grass growing out of the dirt, out of control.
We'll get it fixed. I'm trying to decide here where you guys want to go, because we do have Seattle Sunday. It's cross country. It's 4:00 kick. 12th man. Actually, I think I'm going to be on Bleav's Seahawk show later on this week to help them preview this game. What's the thing that you guys are looking at for them to build on going into next week? Because from everything that we've said, we've hit all the hot spots. You know, they got to focus on the run game. They need to find them a receiver. What do you think they should do there? Oh, and before we do that, I'm sorry. The ones that are online comparing Cam Newton's first 2 games to Bryce Young's first 2 games, please keep in mind that what Cam Newton had around him. They had this guy over here on that roster. They had Steve Smith on that roster. Greg Olsen was on that roster. He had an offensive line in front of him. He had Jordan Gross at left tackle. Like, he literally had D'Angelo Williams was still on that team. Like, they had a squad already. They literally just needed to put a quarterback in it and go. And look at what we have. This is not the same thing. So to expect Bryce to go out and throw for 400 yards first 2 weeks and the explosiveness and all that, he doesn't have a number 1 wide receiver like Steve Smith. Like, Steve Smith,
I was about to say Steve Smith alone in that Arizona game, I think, counted for 200 yards.
Yeah, fearless, jumping over people at 5'9", like doing all that stuff. We don't have a guy like that right now, and that's okay. We knew we didn't have one coming in. In fact, I think Schuyler was the only one that was like, guys, we don't have these things, so I don't know how we're going to win those games. But we were like, nah. Well, reality is reality is set in. Give me your thoughts on this in Seattle. What's Seattle's I don't even know what Seattle's record is right now. How are they doing?
They're 1-1.
I'll let Stu go because I literally have a guy just decided to start weed whacking right up against my apartment. Stu, you take us for a minute.
Go ahead, Stu.
Now look, all that weed whacking going on over there. Listen, so I expect what we need is for our defense to remain solid during these tough times. So,
do you believe?
Yes, and because I look at who the Seahawks play the first game, the Rams.
Yes, I want to say
yes. I mean, if I'm the Carolina Panthers, I'm looking at that Rams game and trying to dissect what the Rams did to really put Seattle in a standstill. They weren't able to get anything done on offense. So whatever that defense did for the Rams, take a page out of that book and add it to the Panthers book. So
that was a home loss too for Seattle.
Yeah,
it's not like it's impossible to do it.
Yeah, and then on offense, I mean, I would want to see some downfield connects, man. We gotta spread this. We gotta spread the defense, on the field so we can create running lanes, and some comfort for our guy Bryce Young. So,
Kersey says it's vice versa. Bryce has a defense, no offense. Cam, he had an offense but no defense. We had some dudes on defense too.
What?
Yeah, there was some dudes on defense also. That roster had people on it. It just bottomed out.
Yeah, we had Beeson.
Yeah, Beeson was still playing. Yeah, they had some TDs on there. What was it, 2010? I'm trying to think who was on that line. They had dudes. They had dudes on that team. It's not the same level as this, especially now with our defense with no Shaq Thompson, no J.C. Horn. That's your number one cornerback and your veteran leader of the defense, gone in 2 weeks. And now I'm seeing C.J. Henderson getting just robbed, like ski mask, half the game. And it's weird with C.J. because he'll be really good one play, and then you're like, what was that on the very next play? And it goes back and forth the whole night. So Dante Jackson had to step up and play. I think it was CJ that was guarding Olave on that catch. That's what changed the game, was that catch.
Going back to Olave, that man is a dog.
Yeah, he's good, man. I underestimate
good. He is really good.
And they're getting Kamara back after next week. And the defense, again, that defense, out of all the defenses you guys have seen so far this season, where would you put that Saints defense? Because I got them with the 49ers and the Cowboys. They're
top 5.
Somewhere top 5, up in there. I think the Cowboys defense might be the best one, to be honest. They are a nightmare. And the 49ers are good too, but I feel like the Cowboys defense is better. They're playing all right now, but eventually they'll show their colors. I don't know, man. Michael Parsons looking like Lawrence Taylor out here.
Michael Parsons a dog, but everybody else, man, they still. I ain't a true believer in everybody else. Michael Parsons is a dog, though.
Schuyler, your thoughts on the Seattle matchup? What do you think the key is to win? Because do you think there's something drastic they need to change, being Carolina, or do you think they need to, stay the course and just execute?
So we got the leaf blower going out too. So just that's an update. But so I'll try to get over top of this stuff.
We got you.
But I think you gotta again establish the run early and set the tone, because Seattle's a physical football team. Everyone wants to talk about Geno and that passing type, but they're a physical football team. They went into Detroit and beat maybe one of the most physical teams in the league. So I think you got to deal with that, and also to help deal with the noise, because obviously Seattle is one of the toughest places to play in the NFL, and to be able to run the ball and kind of gash that defense, that's going to quiet the crowd down a little bit. But defensively, I think they do what they've been doing the last 2 weeks. If they do that, they're going to be just fine. Now, obviously, they need to be a little bit better against the run, but when you're out there for as many plays as they were last night, I mean, it's kind of hard to ask your defense to do much more. I mean, I looked up at one point, and the Saints had ran 30 more plays than the Panthers.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to extend drives, stay on the field a little bit longer, and by doing that, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. You're not going to win if you have 30 less cracks at it.
And that's a good point, too, because Derek Carr was rattled all night. Like, he did not have a great game. The Panthers defense actually played really, really well.
And that's one thing I should have pointed out earlier is even though the Saints are 2-0, if you're a Saints fan, you're not feeling really good right now because you last week had 3 turnovers against Tennessee. You forced 3 turnovers, and you only beat them 16-15. You scored 16 points, and you had 3 turnovers, only won by 1. That's a problem.
Your defense didn't allow a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. And as bad as the Panthers' offense was last night, and you only won by 3 and you only put up 20 points, like that is a serious problem. The Saints' offense is much more talented and experienced than the Carolinas, and they don't look all that much better.
That's an excellent point, which should make Panther fans feel better because that's kind of when I left that game. I'm like, the Saints are 2-0, and it doesn't really feel like they were that much better than us. It just felt like they capitalized on opportunities better than we did in the actual game. I want turnovers. I want the defense to start forcing some turnovers because we need to start helping Bryce out, like with some short fields and just make it easier for him. You know, there's some things we can do with the stuff we do have. We do have a top-notch defense. I do think we have a top half of the league type of defense, top 15 or so with the talent that's on it. It's the bright spot of this team. I feel like they are going to have to take the lead here and be like, look, if we're going to win games, it's going to be through our defense. Like, we've got to do something to disrupt these teams to get the ball. Like, doing enough right now to keep them out of the end zone for the most part. But I think they need to do interceptions, fumbles, something, punch the ball, just something to disrupt to get the ball back to our offense on shorter fields. Because if we're putting Bryce at the 25 every single time and asking him to drive us down 75 yards on these little dink and dunk screens and whatnot, and they're not able to get it downfield because of the no separation, it's just going to make it for a frustrating watch. And that's what the first 2 weeks have felt like to me. They felt like the same game, like literally the same game. It's a rock fight for 3 quarters. The Panther defense holds. 4th quarter, the Panther defense is wore out. The other team scores a touchdown, and then they might score a touchdown late at the end, and it looks bigger than what it was. That was the exact same script for both games, week 1 and 2 for the Panthers. I feel like they can change it, but I don't know if they have the horses to do it with on offense. That's where I'm at right now, unless they just completely commit to the run game like they did last year and just be like, look.
But again, to do that, you have to have a guy that can wear you down, and they don't have that.
They don't have that guy. Can you trade for Deonta Foreman in midseason? Can we bring him back?
Listen, I'll tell you this. Like, after the first game, Chuba Hubbard can wear down a defense.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah.
I saw the way he –
I think he can wear defense down in a different way.
Yeah, in a different way. The way he was running the ball, if you commit to that, if you commit to the way he was running the week before, going into Seattle, a away game, get that clock ticking, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to help your passing game. That's what's going to open things up down the field. So that way you can launch one to DJ Chark and we in the end zone. Now we can do whatever we want once you start doing that. Okay, so we just need to, man, listen, run the ball, man.
Madison's echoing exactly what you just said. People talk about the pass game and Bryce Young, but very little talk about what establishes the pass game, which is physicality at the line of scrimmage and a run-first philosophy.
You got to be physical.
And it doesn't feel like they are. It don't feel like they're really – that was the difference when Wilkes took over at the end of last year, where you could feel it through the TV that they were going to be the most physical team that day. They were going to push you around. You knew they were going to run it, and they were like, stop it. Like that's the difference. I don't know what we're going to do. when
you have 2 guards that have a combined total of 3 starts, that's
hard. That's tough. That's tough. It's tough. But hey, listen, young bucks, unexperienced guys.
Deep
this is your time to shine.
Yep.
Okay. If they said that you didn't have it, you got to tell them, yes, I do. This is your time.
If you're Chandler Zavala or if you're not Austin Corbett, if you're a Chandler Zavala or Caden Mays, you're taking this opportunity and running with it because Brady's out for the year. He can't do anything to get his job back this year. Austin Corbett, when he comes back, he's a starter. But there's going to be at least one spot that potentially could be taken over, and that could be Brady Christensen's spot. If you play to the performance where they're like, you know what, you are the guy. Even though Brady has done well, you've played so well that you are our left guard. Like that's a possibility. And that's not saying Caden Mays can't do it either and just flip over to the left side. But one of those two guys has a chance to really supplant themselves as a starter.
That's how Bozeman became the starting center, right? Pat Eflon went down with injury last year. He came in and just played so well. They were like, well, Pat, I guess your services are no longer required. We're going to just let Bradley do this and go from there. I'm seeing a little thing in the chat. People are kind of ganging up on Miles Sanders. They're saying they'd rather see Chuba than Miles. And a direct question to Stu: is Sanders as good as advertised? Because I think the fan base thinks he's a bit underwhelming because he was the big splash at running back that they signed. It wasn't even that big of a deal. It was really more because he was like the last running back that signed, and nobody else really signed after him. I haven't had a problem with Sanders.
I don't have a problem with Sanders at all. Like, 14 carries, you see it all the time where your primary back has 14 carries in his stats throughout a game, right?
Yeah.
But then you have probably one more carry that takes him to the house, right? All it takes, the very opening, the first play of the the game yesterday,
13-yarder.
It was a 13-yarder out the gate because there was a hole. And and the way it developed, he gave a little hezzy in the backfield to actually anticipate that whole opening instead of just like hitting his offensive line and then, probably maybe stumbling for a 5. He gave a hezzy in the backfield and then hit it. And so those are the types of plays that we can get out of Sanders. So no, we don't bench Sanders. We just utilize both running backs.
Use him more. Yeah. Why are you going to bench
You know what I'm saying?
We need him.
and I think, and I think also too, what happens though, man, like going back to this whole play calling, it's hard for, to find that type of rhythm in a game. I know that. Like one thing, is 3 and out here, 3 and out there. Next thing you know, you ain't been running no plays. Right. And so like things can get out of touch or out of hand quick. And so that's why you have to stay committed from the very jump. After that 13-yarder, man, listen, dial that thing up again.
Bang, 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 bang.
If I'm a running back, I'm like, listen, do that again, coach.
Yeah.
There's been multiple times in my career where Cam would be like, hey, good stuff. We're going to dial it up again. And the very next play, run the same play. It might not be the same explosion, but we get yards because we knew that it worked the first time. We catch them in the same look, boom.
And that builds confidence.
It builds confidence for the offensive lineman.
Within the game, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm really talking about, man. Like, if we looking like we not confident in what we're doing on the field, that your best bet is to figure it out in the running game.
It's the little things, and that's a good place to kind of to cap it here, where I feel like what you just said, I think there's a difference between like a team being overly confident, like in general, like on Tuesday, Wednesday, that we're confident in our abilities, we're confident in our staff, blah, blah, blah. But then like in the game, building confidence that you can do the game plan that you came in with against that team. Those are like little victories that pile up over the course of the game. And I feel like we're not getting those. We're not getting those little victories that are making the offense like the defense is. The defense is winning these little, getting sacks, cause turnovers, just creating havoc. And they're building on that so they can sustain it through the game. The offense doesn't feel like they're getting that burst, that big run, that big catch. The Saints didn't have it last night until the lobby catch. And that was kind of the spark that kind of got them going. Because
all it takes is one.
You take that out, there was nothing that the Saints did last night on offense that was memorable, really. We need those. And I don't know how you do that other than just will and get up. Like we just got to play better. We got to execute better. There's talent on this team. They're not going 0 for 17 like some of y'all are saying online right now or whatever. It's not that bad. Again, check out Chicago. Go check Chicago out. If you really want to see
that's bad.
Like DJ Moore's on the sideline looking like he's crying. Like
I low key feel, I feel bad for Justin Fields.
I do too,
because the organization ain't doing they ain't doing right by him. That man too gifted. Like I know, like I probably said, like, hey, Justin Fields ain't got it last year, but watching him this year, there's really just not been any growth.
Yeah, he stepped back. Like, he looks worse.
Just the growth aspect as a player, that comes from the organization. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is your intentions, in that locker room? What's your intentions in the meeting rooms? I feel like you got to figure out a way to decode him.
He didn't look like this at Ohio State. Like, matter of fact, coming out of high school, him and Trevor Lawrence were like 1 and 1A in terms of quarterback rankings. Like, he's got tools. Like,
that's the real question: is if Carolina continues to help out Chicago here. I mean, they may have 2 cracks at the number 1 pick. If they do get the number 1 pick, I mean, you can't trade out of it again, right? I mean, you almost have to take Caleb Williams over Justin Fields.
Or maybe Shedeur Sanders.
Do you believe?
Because
yes, I believe.
He's climbing. We didn't talk about Deion yet. We still we people have been asking me, Stu, Oregon, Colorado, undefeated. I think Oregon's 10th ranked. I think Oregon's 19. Who are you picking this guy? It's in Oregon. How did the Pac-12 come this?
Yeah, you know who I'm picking.
Loaded this year.
I'm picking the Ducks all the way. The Ducks got to win this game.
No
question about it.
I think Oregon has to win that game convincingly. I really do.
Yeah. Like now, like if things do change up though, and Oregon end up, losing this game. Let me tell you, you thought they was here. Well, boy, you better get ready because they really coming after that.
Do you believe?
That'll set up a showdown with USC the next week in Colorado. I didn't appreciate the.
We got to make sure the refs. We got to make sure we watch the refs next week. This Oregon and Colorado game. They like try to fix stuff.
I didn't like the announcer from ESPN saying that the sideline at Colorado looked like the BET Awards. I didn't appreciate that. That kind of hit me. It kind of hit a nerve with me. But
was wild with that one.
Yeah, they had Master P down there, and The Rock was there, and all these people showing up to Colorado's sidelines all of a sudden. I don't feel so bad now because I was comparing them to 05 USC, and people were looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, this is the last time you don't see celebrities on the sideline, Alabama or Georgia or whatever. They're just pumping out 12
on the sideline.
Snoop Dogg. Like, it's a party. Like, Lil Wayne led them out, like with a theme song. Like, who does this? I love it. I love watching it. That's 3:30 on ABC Saturday. So that was our Colorado watch, and of course, they got to take on Stu's alma mater, Oregon. Yeah. He's picking the Ducks to win. So, and Schuyler, you said by a lot. You saw Oregon by a lot.
Convincingly.
So, heard it here first.
I'll tell you what, I'm still sleepy from watching that game.
Me too. I'm thinking about taking a nap right now. Matter of fact, as soon as we get off here.
I'm glad they're playing at 3:30 this week.
Yes.
So,
dude, I fell asleep before the overtime, like right before the overtime. So I woke up not knowing what happened. That was like the worst feeling in the world. Like reaching for your phone, like at 10. Like, did they win? Did they win? Oh, they won. Oh no, it's like the greatest game of all time, and I missed it.
I woke up in a panic looking at my phone, like, oh, did they win? Okay.
That 9.5 million viewers watched that game that started at 10:30 on the East Coast. It's like the 5th most watched college football game of all time on ESPN. This was a regular season game between Colorado and Colorado State. That's just insanity. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Oh, I was gonna ask you guys this too. Where the hell is Laviska Shenault? Where is he? Like, where is he? Is he playing? Like, it doesn't feel like they put him out there at all. What's going on? Is he hurt? Schuyler? Anything?
No, I mean he got some touches yesterday, not very many. It seemed like he was going to be featured a lot in that week 1 game.
Yeah,
early on. Then
we can't
figure it out, but
we got to, in order for us to do the things we want to do with Laviska, we got to create separation from the line of scrimmage.
And we can't do that right now.
Until we can do that, we're not really going to see exactly what they have in store for us with him.
He's like you said at the beginning of the show, he's like that Porsche but he's got like a wheel jack on him, so he's just like sitting third.
Nah, man, he in the carport.
Yeah,
he outside. He outside, just not totally enclosed.
It's just we can see him. There he is. He's right there.
But I tell you what, when he get out that carport, oh my God, he out of there.
So Panthers Seahawks Sunday 4:00 kickoff. Bleav it's CBS this week that they're on and not Fox. So we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back next Tuesday to dissect that one. Hopefully the Panthers will bring home a victory. We'll have a victory Tuesday against these Seahawks. They're not playing that well themselves. They're 1-1. They've been outscored. Still winnable games. Don't abandon the Panthers after week 2, guys. Like, don't be that fan base.
Relax.
Hey, if you made it last year through that start, you saw how things kind of came together.
That was
horrific.
Yeah, that was much worse.
If you made it through the rule era, congrats.
Come on off that life preserver. Let's figure this out together. Presented by Bet Online. Catch this episode and all previous episodes on the Bleav Podcast Network. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. The video is always available at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. And if I'm not mistaken, they're going to start putting us on the fast channels here, so you'll be able to watch us on like Roku TV and things of that sort. So more info on that as it comes along throughout the season. But for Schuyler Callihan and Jonathan Stewart, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Keep at it.